Are you paying attention to what's happening at your grocery store? Those empty shelves aren't just bad luck, and it's about to get way worse. Right now, we're staring down the most alarming food shortages since 2020. Prices skyrocketing. They've shot up a staggering 12% just in the last 3 months. And experts are warning we haven't even seen the worst of it. If you think finding what you need is tough now, wait until March 2025. Some items will literally vanish. Why? Global shipping chaos has hit a 5-year high, with container costs tripling like it's monopoly money. Meanwhile, extreme weather has wrecked crops in the most critical farming regions worldwide. This isn't just a problem, it's a full-blown crisis creeping into your cart. Today, I'm breaking down the 10 grocery items that will be completely out of reach before the end of March 2025. This list isn't random guesswork. It's built on insider data, from broken supply chains to expert warnings. And number 2 on this list? Even I couldn't believe it. You need to know what's disappearing now so you can stock up before it's too late. Let's get into it. 10. Cocoa products. Look, the chocolate situation is about to go from bad to worse, so listen up. Cocoa products are quickly becoming a luxury, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to be left staring at empty shelves. Cocoa prices have shot up by a jaw-dropping 78% in just a year. That's not some random blip on the radar, folks. This is what happens when the world's largest cocoa producers hit rock bottom. West Africa, which grows a whopping 70% of the planet's cocoa, is in trouble. Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire have reported a disastrous 30% drop in production in only the last month. Why? A mix of extreme weather, exhausted trees that haven't been replanted for decades, and a nasty fungal disease called the swollen shoot virus, which is wiping out entire farms. These farmers are struggling to survive, and the ripple effects are landing directly on our grocery aisles. Here's the kicker. Big brands like Hershey's and Nestle are panicking. They're not just raising prices, they're shrinking products to squeeze out every penny they can. That $2 candy bar from last year? Now it's $3.50 and half the size. But here's the grim reality no one wants to tell you. By mid-March, a lot of chocolate won't even exist on store shelves at any price. High-quality dark chocolate and cocoa powder for baking? Those will be some of the first to go. And forget about fancy Easter treats. Retailers are bracing for chaos. One supplier straight up admitted they can only deliver 40% of their normal inventory by the end of March. I even spoke to a store manager who said they've already started rationing chocolate to 2 items per customer in some stores. Your best move? Stock up now. Buy your favorite chocolate bars, baking chips, or even cocoa powder. These keep well in a cool, dry spot for months. And if chocolate becomes extinct on your shelves? Don't laugh, but carob is a decent substitute. It's made from an entirely different plant and doesn't face the same shortages. Either way, don't wait. By the time you notice the chocolate aisle is bare, it'll already be too late. Trust me, the chocolate crisis is real, and it's happening faster than you think. 9. Certain citrus fruits. Bad news for citrus lovers. That orange juice you pour every morning? It might be gone by the end of March. Citrus fruits are becoming shockingly scarce, and all signs point to a serious shortage. Florida's citrus industry is basically on life support at this point. 3 hurricanes ripped through the state during the worst possible time for their crops, hammering groves right as they were flowering. The result? Citrus production in Florida just hit a 90-year low, with orange harvests down a crushing 63% compared to last year. It's not just the U.S. getting wrecked. Europe's major citrus suppliers, Spain and Italy, have been dealing with their hottest winter in recorded history. That heat wave gutted lemon production by nearly 50%. Meyer lemons? Those little yellow beauties are already becoming a rarity. And grapefruits? They're in even worse shape because most of the U.S. supply comes from Florida and neighboring states. When the source dries up, so do the shelves. And don't assume grocery stores are going to prioritize customers like you and me. Importers are focusing on bigger buyers, like restaurant chains. That's why your favorite diner might still have lime wedges for cocktails, but you'll find empty bins where oranges used to be. Grapefruit shipments? Forget it. One major retailer just warned their suppliers can't guarantee any deliveries after mid-March. The wave of this citrus collapse doesn't stop at fresh fruit. We're already seeing its effects ripple into marmalades, seltzers made with citrus oils, and even vitamin C supplements, which rely heavily on citrus byproducts. Manufacturers are scrambling to find alternatives, but it's slow going, and prices are already creeping higher. I went to 3 different stores last weekend to hunt for blood oranges and key limes, and I came back with absolutely nothing. One market employee even told me their citrus shipments have pretty much stopped altogether. Here's what you can do now to weather the storm. First, stock up on whatever citrus you can find and freeze the juice. It keeps well and can save you when fresh fruit disappears. Buy frozen concentrate while it's still on the shelves, or learn some old-school preserving methods like dehydrating or salt-surring citrus. If you're into cooking, save and freeze the zest from organic lemons while they last. Trust me, this stuff will feel like gold when citrus prices double or triple in a matter of weeks. The citrus emergency is no joke, and you don't want to be caught off guard. 8. Certain seafood options. Brace yourselves, seafood fans. If you're big on fish tacos, shrimp cocktails, or that Saturday salmon dinner, you're in for a rude awakening. The seafood aisles are about to become ghost towns. Why? The strictest fishing restrictions in over 15 years just hit, and they're not here to play. These rules aim to save fish populations on the brink of collapse, but they're also leaving our plates empty. First up, wild-caught salmon. Alaska's fisheries just slashed permits by 60%, citing critically low salmon populations. Decades of overfishing, warmer ocean temps, and disrupted migration patterns have pushed salmon numbers to the edge. The Columbia River Basin alone, it's seeing its lowest salmon return in 30 years. Think those gleaming pink fillets you grilled last summer will be there in March? Think again. Some stores are already rationing salmon, limiting it to 2 packages per customer. Prices climbed 30% last month alone, and the worst is yet to come. Shrimp lovers, your moment isn't looking much better. The Gulf Coast is facing a nightmare. Warmer water temps? Check. Breeding disruptions? Check. Oh, and a January shipping spill in Louisiana that contaminated prime shrimping zones? Result? Shrimp prices shot up 40% in February. And don't expect those big luscious shrimp in your favorite recipes anymore. Suppliers are warning that only tiny, thumbnail-sized shrimp might be left by April. One Louisiana restaurant owner told me she's already bracing for menu changes because getting shrimp is borderline impossible. And God help the crab enthusiasts. Crabbing in the Pacific Northwest has taken a nosedive, with the season cut short by 6 weeks. Warmer waters forced crabs deeper, making them harder to catch. Fishermen describe this year as catastrophic, with catches down over 60% from historical averages. Dungeness crab, a favorite for seafood boils, could completely vanish from shelves by mid-March. Even the beloved lobster is in trouble. Maine's lobster industry is grappling with shortened seasons and new trap limits, while warming waters push the lobsters further north into Canadian territory. That $30 lobster dinner? Expect it to hit $45 if you can find one at all. Your best bet? Stock up on frozen seafood while it's still somewhat affordable. Or check out international grocers. They work with different suppliers and might still have inventory when the big chains run out. Seafood crisis? It's here, and it's devouring your wallet and your dinner plans. 7. Rice varieties. Now imagine this. You walk into your grocery store, head straight to grab your usual jasmine or basmati rice, and boom, nothing on the shelf but a temporarily out-of-stock sign. Sound dramatic? Well, it's happening faster than you think. Rice, a staple for over half the world, is on the verge of becoming a rare commodity. Here's why. The global rice supply just hit one of the largest deficits in decades. We're talking about an 8.5 million metric ton shortfall last year, the biggest since 2004. And if you think that sounds bad, wait until we get into the cause. The trifecta of disasters: climate change, restrictive export policies, and disrupted supply chains. Floods drowned entire harvests in some countries, while heat waves slashed yields by up to 30% in others. Bangladesh, India, Thailand, and Vietnam, they're all struggling to cope, and their struggles are landing in your pantry. India, the largest rice exporter in the world, struck a massive blow to global markets when it restricted rice exports. Panic buying ensued as nations like the Philippines and Indonesia scrambled to secure enough rice to feed their populations. Oh, and when India did resume exports, they slapped on hefty price hikes. Now, countries can barely afford what was once a cheap, accessible food. The result? Higher prices and scarce availability worldwide. Premium varieties like jasmine and basmati are already feeling the pinch. These come primarily from countries struggling with export restrictions, making them the first to vanish. Even California's Calrose rice isn't immune. Ongoing droughts and water shortages have cut down American rice production significantly. And don't expect brown rice to save the day either. With its shorter shelf life, producers are prioritizing white rice, leaving shelves increasingly bare for health-conscious buyers. What can you do before rice becomes a luxury? Stock up on non-perishable varieties while prices are still somewhat reasonable. Consider diversifying your pantry with alternative grains like quinoa or couscous, which aren't facing the same shortages. If you're lucky enough to find good deals, buy extra and store them properly. Rice can last for years if kept in cool, dry conditions. This isn't just a blip, folks. Rice shortages are becoming the norm, and the clock is ticking faster than you think. Act now, or risk paying a fortune for a simple bowl of rice. 6. Specialty flours. You know that almond flour banana bread recipe everyone loves? Yeah, forget about it. Specialty flours are disappearing from shelves faster than anyone expected. The almond flour, coconut flour, oat flour, all those go-to options are either ridiculously pricey or simply non-existent. If you rely on these, you're in for a rough ride. Here's why you're staring at ghost-like aisles in the baking section. First, supply chain chaos. We've all heard it before, but this time it's targeting specific ingredients. Almond flour, for example, relies on almonds from drought-stricken California. Severe water shortages are choking almond production, and when there are no almonds, there's no flour. Coconut flour? It's imported from tropical regions where rising costs, climate issues, and transportation nightmares have predictably slowed everything down. Add global shipping delays, and even finding a bag of coconut flour feels like winning the lottery. Then there's heightened demand. Specialty flours aren't niche anymore. Gluten-free diets, paleo plans, keto enthusiasts, and plant-based eaters have mainstreamed alternative flours in unbelievable ways. A growing health-conscious crowd wants almond, oat, and cassava flours over traditional wheat. Unfortunately, the production of these niche flours hasn't kept up. More people want them than there's stock to go around. It's a simple matter of supply versus demand, and we're losing the battle. Heck, even oat flour has exploded in popularity thanks to clean eating trends, and now there's barely any to find on the shelves. If you're wondering which flours are hardest to find, here's the short list. Almond flour is almost impossible, with California's almond crisis putting it in the danger zone. Coconut flour is next, with transportation hurdles and rising costs pricing it out for many. Oat flour? Good luck. The gluten-free wave has wiped it clean. Chickpea and cassava flours are climbing in price thanks to booming demand from plant-based bakers. Even matcha powder, which stuck into every trendy baking recipe, is experiencing shortages. Your play? Stock up now. Buy several bags if your go-to flour is still available. They store well if kept dry and sealed. Missing almond flour? Can't find oat flour? Blend oats at home. Online retailers or local mills might be the secret to dodging this mess, so don't write them off. Specialty flours won't magically reappear anytime soon. If you bake with these, the time to act is now. 5. Certain meat cuts. Have a favorite steak or pork shoulder recipe? Better make it now while you can still find the meat for it. Certain premium and even everyday cuts of meat are quickly vanishing, and we've got some big reasons why. Processing plants are falling apart at the seams, labor shortages are crushing production, and demand is skyrocketing like never before. The result? An all-out meat war, and we're already starting to lose. Do you enjoy a thick, juicy ribeye steak or tender beef fillet? Say goodbye. Prime cuts like ribeye and tenderloin are nearly impossible to keep in stock. Industry reports show inventory is already down by 43%, and rising costs put these cuts out of reach for most people. Planning a special dinner? Freeze these now if you can still find them. Pork shoulder, which became hugely popular thanks to smoking and slow cooking, is suddenly another victim. Warehouse stocks plummeted by more than half in just 2 months. Maybe chicken wings were your backup plan? Think again. Between March Madness and spring parties, demand for wings has exploded. Unfortunately, chicken production hasn't recovered fully since earlier supply chain disruptions. Suppliers can't keep up, and the price of wings might double by mid-March. Your wing night traditions? Probably on hold. What's driving this chaos is the state of meat processing facilities. These plants are struggling with a 17% rise in costs since January. Add a labor shortage that's cut their operational capacity to 72%, down from 88% last year, and you've got yourself a crisis. Processing plants can't keep up, especially with more premium cuts. 3 major Midwest facilities shuttered completely just last month. When processing shuts down, the meat doesn't make it to stores. It's that simple. Your best move? Shift your focus. Less popular cuts like chuck roast, chicken thighs, or pork loin are easier to find and often just as flavorful with a little creativity. Support local butchers who work directly with nearby farms since they're often less affected by large-scale supply chain problems. Keep an eye on sales and freeze cuts that you find now before prices soar even higher. The meat section is shrinking fast, and waiting until the shelves are bare is a recipe for disappointment. Stock up today or prepare to pay tomorrow. 4. Olive oil. Think your grocery bill is high now? Just wait. Olive oil, that kitchen essential everyone depends on, is heading toward a major crisis. Prices are already through the roof, and the situation is only getting worse. Production has taken a brutal hit, and we have climate disasters in southern Europe to thank for that. Spain and Italy, which together pump out over 60% of the world's olive oil, are facing their worst harvests in decades. How bad are we talking? Olive oil production dropped a jaw-dropping 35% compared to last year. Heat waves this past summer were no joke. Temperatures soared to 115 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas, literally baking olives before they were even picked. And just when things couldn't get worse, Italy faced devastating floods in the fall that wiped out entire groves. Farmers are calling this the most stressful harvest they've seen in 40 years. Olives are smaller, they're yielding less oil, and the quality has taken a huge nosedive. Extra virgin? That'll be the hardest to come by because it requires the highest quality olives. Meanwhile, prices are absolutely spiraling. Olive oil costs have jumped an insane 45% since November, and experts say you can expect another 30% increase by mid-March. Want to make that healthy Mediterranean dish next month? Be prepared to pay top dollar, if you can even find any. Some stores are already stocking fewer bottles because they can't get enough supply from distributors. What can you do? First, grab a couple of bottles now, especially if you're a fan of extra virgin. These shortages aren't ending anytime soon. For those of you ready to pivot, avocado oil is a solid substitute for cooking at high heat. Walnut oil is another option for salad dressings, but its price is climbing fast too. Grapeseed oil might hold out a bit longer, so keep an eye on that. The bottom line is, olive oil could remain in short supply for at least 6 to 8 months. Want to avoid the sticker shock later? Stockpile while you still can. 3. Coffee. If your morning doesn't start until that first cup of coffee, you're in for some seriously bad news. Coffee is rapidly disappearing from store shelves, and we haven't seen a crisis like this in years. Global coffee production just hit an 8-year low, and the ripple effects are staggering. It's a perfect storm of disasters, starting with Brazil. This country, which produces a whopping 40% of the world's coffee, is grappling with its worst drought in decades. Soil conditions are parched, and young coffee plants aren't surviving. That means this crisis might drag out for years, not months. But Brazil isn't alone. Coffee regions in Colombia were hammered by floods last month, destroying 30% of their crops. And Vietnam, another major supplier, is dealing with an acute labor shortage. Thousands of workers left farming jobs during the pandemic and never returned. With beans literally rotting on trees, Vietnam is in no shape to offset the losses from Brazil or Colombia. Here's the tricky part. Coffee plants are insanely fragile. They hate sudden temperature changes, and climate change is wreaking havoc on their growing conditions. Studies show temperatures rising even by 1 or 2 degrees can destroy entire harvests. And that's exactly what's happening. Over 60% of coffee plant species are now facing extinction. This isn't just about your caffeine fix. It's a lifeline for 125 million people globally who depend on coffee farming to survive. What does this mean for your cup of joe? Higher prices and empty shelves. Arabica beans, the smooth, less bitter type used in most premium coffee, are vanishing fast. Experts predict many grocery stores will be out of premium brands by mid-March. Robusta beans, the cheaper, stronger option, might last a little longer, but at double or even triple the price. And don't think instant coffee is safe. Even low-grade beans are seeing price hikes. For now, stock up on your favorite coffee while you still can. Seal the beans in an airtight container and freeze them. They'll stay fresh for months. If prices get out of control or supply dries up entirely, tea might become your new morning routine. And for the truly desperate among us, there's the old-school option of chicory root. A coffee alternative that's far from perfect, but certainly better than nothing. Either way, coffee shortages aren't going anywhere, so plan ahead, or prepare to face some seriously rough mornings. 2. Fresh berries. Think fresh berries are just another grocery item? Think again. They're about to become a luxury most can't afford. Those $3.99 strawberries you picked up last spring? Kiss that price goodbye. Climate chaos, labor shortages, and shifting exports are turning fresh berries into one of the scarcest items on store shelves. California, home to the iconic berry belt, is grappling with its driest winter in over 15 years. Rainfall has dipped an alarming 42% below the seasonal average, leaving berry farms parched and struggling. What's left of the crops? Subpar quality and way less yield. Florida added frost damage to the mix. 3 freak frost events in January wiped out nearly 30% of early berry harvests. Farmers had no choice but to declare large portions of their crop lost. And don't think Mexico is swooping in to save the day. Mexico, a major berry exporter that usually fills supply gaps in March, is in its own trouble. Recent agricultural reports show a devastating 35% drop in berry production, primarily thanks to harsh weather conditions and labor shortages. Thousands of seasonal workers have left farms, chasing higher-paying jobs in factories and other industries. Their absence means thousands of acres of berries remain unharvested, rotting in fields. The price tags speak for themselves. Strawberries are predicted to hit $8.99 a pound by mid-March. That's if you can even find them. Blueberries aren't much better, with an expected price surge to $7.50 for a measly 6-ounce container. Organic raspberries? Forget it. Grocery chains are already warning that once wholesale prices become too high, they'll stop ordering them altogether. One retailer admitted they're reducing shelf space for berries by a shocking 40% this spring, replacing them with more abundant and affordable produce. What's your move here? Skip the fresh section and head to the freezer aisle. Frozen berries still reflect last season's prices, but that won't last long. Supplies are limited, and when inventory runs dry, those prices will climb fast. Some savvy shoppers are already buying fresh berries in bulk and freezing them at home. It's a cost-efficient way to secure your berry stash while you still can. Can't live without fresh? You'll need to get creative. Farmers markets or small local producers with greenhouses might still have some stock, though you'll pay a premium. Either way, berries are becoming the new luxury fruit of 2025. Act accordingly. 1. Dairy alternatives. Dairy alternatives. You'd think with their skyrocketing popularity, production would be booming, right? Wrong. These plant-based must-haves are rapidly disappearing, and the reasons are enough to make anyone nervous. From oat milk to almond yogurt, production issues and skyrocketing demand are creating the perfect storm, leaving shelves empty and prices climbing. Start with oat milk, that carton you use to grab so easily. Get ready to fight for it. 3 of the top 5 oat milk brands have already announced they're cutting production on flavored options just to keep up with plain versions. Why? Manufacturing equipment is to blame. Several major plants shut down in January due to critical machine parts being backordered. And those parts? They're not expected to arrive until June. Then there's almond milk. California's almond crisis has hit plant-based milk production hard. Drought conditions devastated almond crops, slashing yields by 31%. February's harvest was officially declared the worst in a decade. One producer even admitted they're prioritizing their largest retail partners, leaving smaller stores and independent retailers in the lurch. Organic versions of almond milk? They're vanishing first, since they're typically less profitable for manufacturers. It's not just milk alternatives. Plant-based yogurts and cheeses are on the chopping block too. The fermentation cultures needed for these products are in critically short supply after a key European supplier faced contamination issues. Combine that with soaring demand, and you've got an industry that simply can't keep up. Plant-based dairy sales climbed an insane 27% last quarter, while production only grew by 8%. That gap is widening by the day. Consumers with allergies or dietary restrictions are feeling the heat. These products aren't optional for many, and the scramble to stock up is in full effect. Want some advice? Buy shelf-stable versions where you can. They'll last longer in your pantry and save trips to increasingly barren grocery aisles. You can also make oat milk at home. It's surprisingly simple, and at this rate might be your only option soon. This isn't just a supply issue, it's a cultural shift. Dairy alternatives have become essentials in millions of households, but producers can't keep up with demand trends. The smart move is to stock your favorites now and explore DIY options before shelves go bare. Because come April, finding your favorite almond or oat milk might feel as rare as winning the lottery. Don't say you weren't warned. The grocery landscape is shifting rapidly, and scarcity is becoming a harsh reality for many household staples. From berries transforming into luxury items to dairy alternatives vanishing from shelves, these changes highlight the fragility of global food supply chains. Shoppers will need to adapt by planning ahead, exploring alternatives, and getting creative to weather these shortages. March 2025 isn't far off, and ensuring your pantry is stocked with essentials now might just save you from frustration later. //